This year, IAF is celebrating its 60th anniversary. Now, in 60 years, we have never been in the African continent, and this is the first time. So we are looking forward for a new era of cooperation with the African continent. I think it's just now that the southern countries are learning that space is not just a luxury toy for rich nations. It is something that can really help a population. It has benefits for the citizens of a state. Now, what are those benefits? First of all, communication from space is, of course, very helpful in countries that have large areas and a thin infrastructure. The second is resources. It is food, it is water, and it is energy. The distribution and the location of these resources can be determined very efficiently from space.
When nature turns against humanity, help after the catastrophe is often all that is left. This isn't only the case in countries with less than perfect infrastructures, because an earthquake, a hurricane, or a tsunami can even bring large industrial nations to a complete standstill. Any rapid analysis of the area actually affected then becomes almost impossible. It's frequently those areas outside the main conurbations that are especially hard hit. The destruction of roads and bridges, as well as a lack of telecommunications, make it impossible to assess the seriousness of the situation on the ground. But for targeting aid measures specifically, this information is absolutely crucial.
During a disaster, space imagery is crucial. And in this sense, UN SPIDER helps to provide a bridge between the space community and the disaster management community. The United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs has the so-called United Nations Global Platform for Space-Based Information for Disaster Management and Emergency Response, or in short, UN SPIDER, that assists the member states in the entire disaster management cycle. In a recent example, in Haiti in 2010, UN SPIDER worked with the United Nations relief aid agencies that were on the ground in Haiti.
In addition to rapid assistance in acute cases, satellite images can be used to provide early recognition of approaching disasters or major environmental changes.
The headquarters is in Vienna. We also have an office in Bonn, Germany, and in Beijing, China. In addition to that, we have 10 regional support offices worldwide. The local experts have the ground information and data and the local context of the disaster. So they'll be the best people to assist the communities that are being affected by the disaster.
Particularly with regard to the worldwide shortage of energy resources, satellite technology has an important role to play. Space surveillance will help us to compile a global solar, wind and water power atlas, which will enable suitable locations for power plants for each energy source to be determined. Using this data not only saves valuable time, but also eliminates the need for the purchase and maintenance of expensive measuring instruments. Also, possible locations can be monitored on a large scale and analyzed as far back as 20 years, thanks to previously archived data. This gives us the opportunity to plan and implement new environmentally friendly power plants at low cost. This is something that has already been successfully implemented in various regions of the world, thanks also to the globally operating Desertec Foundation. In this respect, the numerous large desert regions open up an entirely new range of additional possibilities for African nations in particular to strengthen their own economies. In the search for fertile cultivatable land, the possibilities are very similar. The focus here is on easily accessible tracts of land capable of producing a high yield with as little water as possible, making them ideal for growing crops. And satellites can also provide helpful information in the field of disease prevention. For instance, in Burkina Faso in West Africa, the spread of the parasites that cause bilharziasis can be examined, supported by university research. By comparing satellite images with data collected in the affected areas, scientists have already been able to establish a link between the increasing frequency of new water reservoirs in the area and the spread of the parasite. A first step towards making the potential offered by space research accessible to the wider population in South Africa has already been taken. This is shown by the fact that the subject is becoming increasingly popular in South African schools. Both for pupils and teachers, these lessons are something very special.
South Africa is the most developed country in Africa, and it is the technological springboard to Africa. And in that context, for information and communication technologies, satellite technology creates enormous potential. We have a very advanced tourism sector. We have a very advanced agricultural sector. We have one of the world's leading mining sectors. And in all of those contexts, satellite technology hasn't begun to be used to the full yet. We've launched a satellite through our University of Stellenbosch, that's in the Western Cape, which is the province where we govern, and we're just beginning to see for the first time what the potential of satellite technology is for the development of a continent that holds most of the world's great riches and is the new frontier for economic growth and development.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sias Mostert, and I have the privilege of introducing the two co-moderators for the panel this evening. On your left-hand side, Professor Jan Dietrich Werner, the chairman of the DLR, and on your right-hand side, Dr. Adi Abihonen, a former United Nations expert for space applications and the United Nations Office for Space Affairs, and currently he's the founder of the African Space Foundation. We welcome them.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure and honor for us to be able to moderate this very important African Space Leaders Roundtable. It's not only two of us who is doing the job, but we have some colleagues from Africa, and I would like to welcome together with you from Nigeria, Mr. Saido Mohammed. Please come to the stage. From South Africa, Mr. Sandile Malinga. From Kenya, Mr. Harry Kane. From Algeria, Mr. Taha Iften. And last but not least, from Tunisia, Mr. Mustafa Masmoudi. We will proceed as follows. We have 3 questions in 2 rounds, which we will raise to the participants. And you have also the opportunity to raise questions or comments. So just use any sheet of paper, and if you don't have one, please raise your hand. There will be some assistants who will give you the paper. You write down the question, and then we will try to answer the question, or better, our panelists will answer the questions. With that, I hand already over to Ade Abiodun, please, for the first round.
Thank you very much, Ian. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished participants, you are here this evening to address this particular question. We are fully aware of what you are doing in your country, and most of you came to this meeting from Mombasa, where we spoke about African Leadership Conference on Space Science and Technology. With that backdrop, the world wants to know from each of you your vision and the vision of your country for Africa's space efforts. And I start with Dr.
One question. I forgot something. Of course, the Germans are always forgetting something.
That's all right.
And this is that we have a special video by the president of Tunisia.
Ah, okay.
You remember that was what I should say.
I thought that was part of what we already saw. But
no, I think that was not the president. So we have a video remark from the president of Tunisia, and I hope it's possible to get that right now.
Okay, let's go.
I think you go on. If it comes later, we will have it later.
All right. In the absence of the video, let's go back and let me repeat my question to all the participants. In response, we start from you, Dr. Mohammed, the Director General of the Nigerian Space Research Agency. Dr. Mohammed, what is your vision and the vision of Nigeria for Africa's participation in space activities globally?
Thank you very much. In addition to those elements that will be articulated here tonight by my colleagues from all over Africa, Nigeria will use its space capability to improve health services in Africa. And in addition to that, we shall implement a comprehensive and integrated disaster management plan all over Africa. It's also our view that we shall also improve literacy level and enhance education, quality of education in Africa. Thank you.
Dr. Malinga, the same question for you, please.
Our vision as South Africa in terms of our contribution to Africa, we believe that as an African country, no country can go it alone. We are of the opinion that the size of our economies in our continent is such that for us to succeed, we can only do it through a collaboration and cooperation amongst ourselves. In particular, we are encouraged by the African Resource Management Constellation, and as a country we commit ourselves to contributing towards the ARMC in contributing a satellite, as our Nigerian colleagues have done. We also believe that we can contribute to the African continent in terms of training of our African counterparts and colleagues We already run a number of programs in the country. The square kilometer array has been used extensively to train students from the African continent. Under SANSA, we also run other programs. As an example, we run a program in Antarctica whereby we make it a point that every year we take at least one African, a student from another African country. The programs that we run have been successful. In terms of, there's a program that we run in the country called the National Astronomy and Space Science Program, NASP, which has trained a number of students from the African continent. That we believe is the contribution that we can make. In the SADC region, we distribute data from programs like the CBUS program together with the Chinese and the Brazilians. We believe that in our region we can play that leadership role in terms of contributing data for the SADC region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Malinga. Professor Harry Kane from Kenya. The same question, what is Kenya bringing to the table in terms of its vision for an African space effort?
Thank you. Kenya's vision is more or less Africa's vision. We see a 20-year vision whereby Africa and Africans will acknowledge and entrench space as an opportunity for human development. We see that Africa will be able to exploit this opportunity not just for space services, but also to make its contribution to knowledge and to infrastructure development that is necessary for exploitation of space. We see human resource or human capital as a major player in this. So we're looking forward in the next 20 years that Africa should be at par with the rest of the world, or even better, having a human capital base that can drive exploitation of space. So our contribution from Kenya, our vision to this, is to play our role as a partner in Africa, and in particular starting with the Africa Resource Management Constellation and the SKA, to which we are committed, so that in the next 20 years we'll build on this. Thank you, Moderator.
Thank you very much for that response. And we now go next to Algeria. Mr. Taha Iftin, can you answer the same question for us? We know you have a satellite in space right now. What is Algeria's vision for an African space effort?
Our vision of space for Africa is related to human capital resources. Training of human capital resources should take a central part in space programs within a perspective of technological expertise and know-how mastery, as well as raising awareness and sensitizing all levels of society to space technology and their application, school and college, association, other. Its implementation requires the involvement of different sectors and competence at the national level, as well as through the exchange between countries. The mobilization of the African scientific community, mainly concentrated in university, colleges, and institutes, will contribute positively to the success of programs that will be initiated. The transfer of know-how for the benefit of engineers, scientists, and technicians will also be affected through 1. Joint effective technology project such projects to build satellite constellation of Earth observation for the management of natural resources and environmental protection. International cooperation is a crucial consideration in order to strengthen the core skills and cover the related subjects for a progressive takeover of quasi-autonomous projects at national and regional levels. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tahar, for that input. Now we go to Tunisia. My brother from Tunisia, Mustafa Masmoudi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Welcome, but maybe we have to listen to the message on the address of our President.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أتقدم بالتحية إلى كافة المشاركين في المؤتمر العالمي لشؤون الفضاء الذي يلتئم لأول مرة بأرض إفريقية، وأود بهذه المناسبة أن أتوجه إلى السيد جاكوب زوما رئيس جمهورية جنوب إفريقيا وإلى شعبها بالشكر والتقدير على احتضان هذا المؤتمر الكبير الذي سيفتح آفاقا واعدة أمام كل الدول النامية وأمام الشعوب الإفريقية بالخصوص. فبعد 50 سنة من تحليق أول إنسان في الفضاء الخارجي، أصبح سكان الأرض مرتبطين بالتطبيقات الفضائية إلى حد كبير. ومن الأكيد أن السنوات القادمة ستشهد انطلاقة إفريقية حقيقية لتوظيف هذه التقنيات في اختصار مراحل النمو. ونحن في تونس لن نبخل بوضع إمكانياتنا العلمية في خدمة الأشقاء والأصدقاء، ولا يفوتني أن أتمنى كل النجاح لهذا المؤتمر الذي آمل أن تحتضن تونس إحدى دوراته القادمة. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you.
Has your president said everything, or you want to add more?
It's my role, Mr. President, now. But as you understand, he addressed welcome to Tunisia for the next meeting. I hope your agreement. I hope your agreement for be again in Africa by the North Gate, and that can be in 3-4 years late, is it? Alors, as you understand, I think I have to repeat what said His Excellency, the acting president of Tunisia, at this occasion, because undoubtedly he insists that space application, will shorten the path of development for all countries worldwide and for Africa especially. As you know, we understand we have need what they need about science application for involvement. We have need science application for get answered our need in the field of space. The satellite telecom, remote sensing and globalization have become essential for the development of new services that help to build the information society and bridge the digital divide. As you know also, a number of civil service can be provided in the field of agriculture, private guidance, fishing, and kayaking. Everything can be by space application now. And we will hope again that we have a new opportunity to speak about after this meeting in Tunisia.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for the first round. As I announced, we will have 3 rounds, or 3 questions, but in 2 rounds. But I would like to remind you, if you have questions, please raise your hand, either write it on a paper and give it to the next, or get a paper and write it down, because we would like, after the next round and after some additional presentation, we would like to ask and to put your questions on the panel. So the next 2 questions are now concerning the next steps. We heard something about the visions for space in Africa, so now it's a question number 1 or number 2, for if you count all together. What are the contributions by national space activities to the space vision, or I should better say, to the space visions for Africa? So this is question 2, and question 3 means, what are the practical challenges, issues, obstacles that confront the implementation of space activities in your country? So we would like to make it a little bit concrete. Is there something we can solve together? And therefore, please, again, in the same order, we start with Nigeria. Mr. Said Mohammed, please, your comment.
Mr. Chairman, thank you once again for the opportunity. Nigeria shall use its space assets in making some contributions to the space effort, part of the vision in Africa. We currently have 3 Earth observation satellites, which includes medium resolutions and high resolution. And 2 years ago, we signed an agreement in Algeria, part of the African Leadership Forum, to make satellites available as part of the African Resource Monitoring Constellation. On the 17th of August 2011, that promise was fulfilled. So we currently have, within the African purview, an Earth observation satellite with a high resolution of 2.5 in the panchromatic and 5 meters multispectra. We shall use these through the existing infrastructure of the Regional Support Office and through the space agencies in members of the African Leadership Forum as part of our integrated plan for disaster management in the whole of Africa. In addition to that, we intend to contribute through our communication satellite. The communication satellite we launched in 2007. Unfortunately, was deorbited after 18 months. And we hope, and God willing, in December 2011, it will be relaunched. And these will be used for part of effort to provide sound health services in Africa through telemedicine. And we also hope that this will be part of efforts to enhance, improve literacy level and enhance education through teleeducation in Africa. And this will be part of our support for the African vision.
Yes.
Thank you.
No, not thank you. I need a little bit more, because I was also asking, is there any obstacle or something which challenge beyond a delay? I mean, delay is a frequent thing we observe. So is there anything you see as an obstacle which has to be solved?
Yeah, certainly we does have challenges. It is obvious that when you talk about space technology development in most fora in Africa, to most people, it is an ego trip. They think you are talking about space exploration. Certainly, because of that, the problems of awareness, both with the general public and most decision makers in Africa. And because of this problem, issues of funding have become a major bottleneck. In addition to that, we also have problem of very skilled manpower in our establishment. And we believe this constitutes a major challenge to our development effort of space science and technology.
Okay, so money is a problem, which is always a problem, but I understand. So we go on to South Africa, and again, Mr. Sandile Malinga. So the 2 items, the contributions from your nation, and additionally, what are obstacles or what are challenges and issues?
Okay, from our side, we're a new entity which has been established this year. And we haven't as yet finalized our strategy, and we're in the process of doing that. And we're hoping that by next year, we'll have it in place. Having said that, though, we are committed. In 2009, our minister signed the ARMC agreement, committing South Africa to contribute at least one satellite towards that mission. And we believe that that's something that we're going to do. We are in discussions with our colleagues here to look at how we do that. And our aim is to develop that satellite, and together with probably our Algerian colleagues locally. And that's the contribution that we can make to develop our capabilities within a continent of developing our own satellites, creating new technologies, and the skills that are required. The challenge that we have as a continent is that whenever we import technologies, we have to import the skills that can operate the same technology, and that we need to reverse as a continent. And so we commit ourselves to build that indigenous capability of building our own satellites. It will be a challenge, and we are fully aware that it's more risky. But then we believe that it will be worth our effort to do that. We launched Sumbandila recently. It spent 2 years in space. It did great work. We learned from it. And we want to use that experience going forward to develop our own capabilities of building satellites to help other African countries. Our principle is that of sharing in terms of knowledge and the transfer of skills. So the companies that we have in South Africa, we want to encourage them to do that. Our model is that no African country can have a comprehensive constellation of satellites on its own. And so for us to have a constellation in the continent, we'll rely heavily on each country contributing. And so if we can build capacity within other African countries of building their own satellites, that will increase the number of countries that can build satellites contributing to our constellation of satellites. In terms of challenges, it's a constant challenge. There are pressing needs in the continent. In South Africa, there is housing, there is water, and these are immediate needs that people see on a day-to-day basis. And so if you say to people, I'll build a satellite that will help us predict what will happen in terms of global warming in 50 years, they tell you that we can predict without fear of doubt what will happen next year in winter in Khayelitsha. There will be a flood, and that's definite. And can't we use that money to do something like drainage there? Those are the kind of challenges that we face. But we believe that there's got to be a balance. In as much as we have to face and address those immediate needs, we need to have foresight and look ahead. The countries that are successful in space today started 50 years ago. This is where they are. We want to do the same, to start now, so that future generations in 50 years' time, they may look back and be grateful to what we did during our time. That's what we want to do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We go directly to Kenya. Mr. Harikane, please.
Thank you, Moderator. We in Kenya also intend to make our contribution to Africa's vision. I'd like to highlight 3 areas where we are planning or where we are already active. The first one, we would like to enhance access to services we derive from outer space. Now, this, you are experts, you all know, that in Kenya, we have some very characteristic or specific situations to us, and also some other African countries. So I would like to highlight just 3. We are one of the countries that is very prone, where climate change is real. We have cyclic droughts and cyclic floods that lead to catastrophic food issues. And we would like to apply outer space to deal with this. We rely heavily on wildlife for our tourism, so we're enhancing the use of outer space services to track wildlife movement and manage that sector in general. So I was just highlighting what we would like to contribute is to increase the business of the services on outer space. We believe this will be very important for Africa. The second area we would like to contribute to is our commitment to the African Resource Management Satellite. We committed ourselves, our cabinet approved, and the government has allocated adequate funds to purchase or build a satellite. We haven't done this because we believe for us to successfully launch our own satellite, there are certain basic fundamentals about industries and the private sector that we are now working on fast to establish a certain foundation of our local industries that will support that. So we delayed procuring or building our own satellite, but we are on course, and we believe we'll join the other 4 countries in the next 3 years. We've also committed ourselves to the SKA project. We've told South Africa we're partners. We'll work with them, and we've begun the process of building capacities. Now, some of the challenges that we are coming through or facing as we deal with this, I would like to highlight very quickly, Moderator, 7, very, very quickly. They all rely on knowledge, which is human capital. We would like, together with the other African countries, enhance access to high-level education and training. Secondly, we would like to acknowledge and harness existing expertise in Africa so that we can pool this resource. We would like, for example, to develop a very comprehensive database of African experts from whom we, Kenya, and other countries that are not so advanced in this area can draw from. So we are looking at how do we develop joint training programs in space that address specific African needs. There are 2 more challenges I would like to highlight. We would like to promote knowledge sharing. This is a challenge to us. How do we reinforce existing networks? Like the African Leaders Conference, which we had recently, and we would like to support these networks like what we are having here in the conference. So these are all challenges we believe when we address, we will move our African agenda forward. Thank you, Moderator.
Thank you very much. Please give the mic to Algeria. Mr. Taha Iften, please.
Algeria has a national space program until 2020 based on 3 axes. Realization of space systems project for both Earth observation and telecommunication, and the implementation of the related ground infrastructure to ensure the sustainability of national space activities on the other hand. As such, the approach to implementation of technology component involves the appropriation of space technology through the transfer of knowledge, expertise, and know-how in the manufacture, assembly, integration, and space qualification. 2, mastery of application and services derived from space system for the purposes of socioeconomic development. This component includes a space application project across sectors which constitute the barometer measuring the impact of space and the national socioeconomic development and validate the choice and technological option implemented in the National Space Program. 3, the development of human potential, equipment, and infrastructure capable of ensuring the sustainability of national space activities and its insertions in information society to which it must contribute to develop. In the African context, Algeria, South Africa, and Nigeria had initiated in 2024, alongside the Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space, meeting in Vienna, a project of satellite constellation of Earth observation for the management of African research and the environment. In the framework of this project, a cooperation agreement was signed by 4 countries, Algeria, South Africa, Nigeria, and Kenya, on December 29 in Algiers. In addition to bilateral cooperation that is about to be set up on projects of common interest. Thank you.
Okay, and finally in this round, Tunisia, again, Mr. Mustafa Masmoudi, and again the question, what are national contributions as well as challenges and issues, obstacles for the future development?
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me say it first. I conducted recently a wide consultation with the organization involved through Arabic country, and I received 16 recommendations. In Tunisia, we share all recommendations. Every country, everybody asks more remote sensing for involvement, agriculture, for involvement, fishing, for telecommunication. And the new ask is, for example, applying the program for remote teaching and training and telemedicine and rural community. That means telemedicine at a distance. They ask preparing water resource satellite inventory through good African cooperation with internationally oriented space agency. They ask using the satellite image to display an inventory of cultural sites and historical heritage to highlight the contribution of African to the development of global history. Sure, we have a challenge. We have a challenge, and many challenges in Tunisia. Like the former administration, the old public administration. Also, the language. As you know, 90% of the students don't speak very well English, don't understand what is writing about space application. Maybe the challenge that we don't give enough interest to role of civil society for helping activity in the public sector or in also business activity, business sector. And the answer, we have answered, and I hope with the new regime, the new government, get a cyber government, a new system for government. We hope also introduce the English, more English in our study. But we ask a big effort to the international community. English we are a universal institution, and we have many languages throughout. English can be the only language for science. And we have to get translation for the better booking. And I hope that with academia, with Federation, IAF, we can get every year a book in 5-6 languages. And we can help for that about Arabic language, for example. That's, for example, some questions, some challenge, and some answers also, Mr. President. And thank you.
Thank you very much. So now we have a short, very special discussion between two space professionals. who will discuss about space. I hope they will be here in a minute. So please come to the stage. It's Mrs. Olenka Fagbemiro and Mr. Etim Ofyong. I hope they are here. So please come to the stage. Welcome them with a short applause. Okay, you get 2 mics.
Thank you very much, sir.
Hello. Okay, Inka, you had the opportunity of participating at the ALC just last week. What would you advise African leaders to actually focus on?
Thank you very much. The ALC was a really big event, and a lot of discussions were made on Africa and space science and technology. I want our leaders, when they go back home, to ensure increased participation of other African countries, because we have over 50 countries in Africa, and we just have these few people represented here. So I wish they ensure increased participation, and also to try and develop indigenous capacity in space science and technology.
Okay.
The SGC just ended, and you were part of the event. So what was your take on the discussions there?
Well, the SGC was a very wonderful event. One of the things that happened during the SGC was the project group sessions. One of the project groups was the outreach session, which I had the opportunity of moderating. The purpose was on space for developing countries, and there was a special focus on African countries. We were able to identify some things, for example, how we could use space assets or satellites for solving some of the problems in Africa. But having that on one hand, we also recognize that some of the terrestrial infrastructure too have to be put in place. We made some policy recommendations, and we also made some recommendations for young professionals too.
Okay, so what do you think young African professionals can do to develop space technology in Africa?
Fine. Young professionals can volunteer and teach in schools. They can organize workshops, seminars. They can set up clubs, and young professionals can. In fact, we said you could even engage in private enterprise. You could set up companies, engage teachers whom you can pay to go to teach. You can set up companies that can be involved in technology development. One other thing we actually identified was the importance of regional cooperation in Africa, and the need for international support too in Africa. And the truth is, we've actually started some things. For example, we are thinking of a fund already to support African youths who are interested in space-related courses. We can support people who are interested in going to schools like the International Space University. And then we're also thinking of a forum for African youths to come together. For example, the ALC that was concluded in Kenya last week, in the next 2 years it will be held in Ghana. So we are hoping that African youths, there will be a forum for young people, students, and young professionals to also meet during that period.
Yes, for me, I think I want the African youth to really, maybe when they get back home, to try and develop capacity in space science so that they can rise to the occasion and try to bridge the knowledge gap that presently exists between them and their counterparts from other parts of the world.
Okay. Well, are you talking about what you take home? As in when you...
Yes, to give out to them.
Okay, now you have some pretty nice kids. In the next 5, 10 years, 20 years, what kind of Africa do you want to see your kids living?
Well, I think I will be happy to have them live in an Africa where diseases, famine, hunger, natural disaster will no longer be an issue, but rather an Africa continent where most, if not all, African nations will now no longer be referred to as space aiming or space dreaming, but rather that they will be active participants in the space industry. I think I'll be happy if I could have my kids grow up in such an environment.
Well, in that case, I guess that means that there has to be a lot more commitment in terms of funding to investing in space applications. For me, I'm looking for an Africa where there's opportunity for the young people, opportunity to develop themselves. Young people the African youth, they have a lot of potentials in them. That innate potential has to be brought out. They can, opportunities for capacity building. I'm looking for an Africa where there are job opportunities. And then that means you have to bring up companies, there has to be industries. And that also means that some of the things that we have to buy here and there, even like buying our satellites, we have to look for a way of trying to develop them right from here, because that will bring up industries back home. Africa, where there's opportunity to network. I mean, many of us are tied up to our localities, to our countries, but there has to be an opening so that there will be integration, kind of.
I think you are very right, because if our educational system is restructured and developed, making facilities available so that we African youths, the innate passion that we have, the potentials that are inside of us can be brought forward, and then I'm sure then space technology will be used to the sustainable development of African nations.
Yeah, one other very important thing is the issue of science. There has to be a lot more focus on the sciences, physics, mathematics, and engineering. Not just talking about space as something like a pie in the sky. Those physical sciences, there has to be more attention in that. And what we see, hopefully in the next 1 year, you'll be able to bring a report to Naples for the IAF guys.
Yeah, see you in Naples.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's perfect. Okay, thank you very much. And now we have the round of questions, and Ade, you start.
Okay. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished panelists, we have questions that have been addressed to you. Unfortunately, we do not have enough time to answer all the questions, so some of the questions will be answered by the panelists on the website of 62nd IAC. But in the interim period, we are going to answer some of the questions. And the first question, the question doesn't have to be answered by all of you. Some of the questions were also addressed to some of you specifically. And so I go to Dr. Malinga, and I've added something else to the question that was given for you. And the question is this: what is your budget over 5 years for the space activities of South Africa? And how do you plan to convince the nation the need to explore space for all the things that space can do? And I've used that to cover some of the other questions, given the level of poverty and other challenges we face here in South Africa.
Thanks very much. In terms of our budget, as I indicated that we're a new entity, the allocation that we received for this current financial year was just for us to set up SANSA. We have put in a budget which at the moment has not been approved, and so I wouldn't be in a position to indicate how much it is until it's been approved by our minister, which will happen in January. Coming to the issue on how can we, justify doing what we do in terms of space, given the other pressing needs. And as I indicated earlier on, that's a constant challenge that we face. We are fully aware of the pressing needs that the country has. But we are of the firm view, and we can show it, that space, science, and technology is necessary for monitoring water, to improve our farming in terms of precision farming, forecasting our yield, housing planning. For instance, under SANSA, we help the Department of Housing in terms of monitoring migration into the urban cities, the Department of Water Affairs. We also assist them. We help our defense force in terms of monitoring our borders, our coastal resources. We also assist in those. So those are areas that we contribute to. More to that, space science and technology is such that it stimulates the industry in terms of technologies that are required to support the systems that are in space. If you go to space, the kind of things that we do on a day-to-day basis on Earth, they are complicated. You have to be innovative in space to eat, to walk. You have to think in a different way. And so we believe that if South Africa commits itself to developing the satellites that we need to develop, we'll create technologies, capabilities in terms of skills and innovation that will transcend space. It will benefit to other areas, be it car manufacturing, which is a big thing for us, and other sectors of the economy. And so we believe that we can use space as that vehicle. Further to that, space is a natural instrument or vehicle for stimulating interest. We are, as a country, are challenged in terms of the uptake of maths and science at school. There are few students who take those in the country. And space is a sense of awe and amazement and wonder. You can't ask for anything to inspire our youth that science is important, it's cool, it needs to be done. Those are the contributions that will justify our government investing in space. Thank you.
Now, thank you very much, Dr. Malinga. Our time is running out. Does any other panelist want to add more briefly to that input that Dr. Malinga already gave? Anything different from your side? Okay, let's go to the next question.
Yes. First of all, you see, we have many questions, and as Adi said, we will ask the questions to all participants, and we will put the answers on the web. But I would like to quote one of, not the question, but one of the comments in one of the papers, because it's my deep feeling, and it says, "Thanks for the great reception here in Africa." So it's also a good comment just in the question area. So, but now I have a question, and this is a big amount of questions always tackling the same aspect. And this is the cooperation between African agencies. I quote just one. Are there any plans for cooperation between African agencies or creating any joint agency like European Space Agency? Or another question is, how do African countries envisage to bring together and organize the inter-African cooperation in space activities? And if we can have a quick going through from here to there, and then Ade, you have the final words. So.
Yeah, thank you once again. Certainly, interagency collaboration remains an essential tool to enable us to develop together for the benefit of our people and using space technology appropriately. I believe that we have already started this. The African Resource Monitoring Constellation is a good platform which we are currently working together, and we believe it to provide opportunity to make available to Africans data that will enable us a leapfrog in several fronts. I believe that Millennium Development Goals makes data requirement an essential requirement in Africa, and what we are currently doing will enable us to achieve a number of things. In addition to that, I also believe that some of us at different levels are already talking together. To create, do capacity building within ourselves. Within the Nigerian Space Program, we're also already supporting some of our sister African countries, particularly in astronomy, where a number of our colleagues benefited from South Africa. And then in that same context too, others have also been provided support to enable some of them establish appropriate departments in their universities through providing professors and other support to them. And in this way, we're also beginning to work with some of our colleagues in Ghana in coastal, coastal research, and also common problem in desertification. And in this way, we're beginning to work together, and we expect to see more of that. Thank you.
We're running out a little bit of time, so be quick.
Right. I just want to echo what we're doing in terms of ARMC. And then in terms of the other partners from Europe, America, and so on and so forth, we've got agreements in place, and we want to cultivate those and grow those. Sometimes the relationship there is asymmetric, and we'll want the relationship to be more or less, we are fully aware we're not equal to some of our partners. But then, the approach should be what can we do together as opposed to what can we do for you. Thank you.
Yes, this is a very important question, and it took a whole session when we were in Mombasa. The question of an African Space Agency, the question should be phrased to when rather than whether. We have the idea that eventually we will need, and it's important we have an African Space Agency. What we agreed upon in Mombasa is that we will form a team immediately. This team will study the strengths and where we are in Africa, and will give us a roadmap to how we'll come together as Africa. In the meantime, we'll strengthen the existing bilateral and under the ARMC project as we move towards a common African Space Agency.
I think it's very important to have in the first part cooperation, bilateral cooperation between different countries. And second step, to have, for example, African Space Agency for good cooperation and collaboration between different countries. Thank you.
Yes, I think that's not so easy to get space agency in every country, African country. But I think we can get a program, a common program, cooperation between us for building a complementary system and get many activity on space. I think that the Union, African Union and Addis Ababa have to make something for that. Mr. Ping have to move. It's a call for him because he's not with us today. Maybe it's a good idea if he decides to be with us tomorrow, since tomorrow. Thank you.
Distinguished panelists, my co-moderator, distinguished participants, this has been a wonderful 1 hour for all of us. Now, in recapitulation, let me just state that all of you, 5 panelists from Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, Algeria, and Tunisia, you have told Africa and the global community of the vision of your country for Africa to accomplish its space aspiration. You've articulated how that vision will be implemented. And you've also cautioned as to the bottlenecks ahead. Personally, as an individual, and as I think I speak for many, if not the majority in this room and in the world, that where there is a will, there is a way. So whatever be the obstacles, I believe they can be overcome. Given that situation, on behalf of those who have listened to you this evening, I challenge each and every one of you to go back home and make sure that the words you have used at this conference, we shall collaborate, we shall reinforce, we shall commit ourselves are not just words, but their actions. 2 youths stood in front of you. You listen to them. Please make sure that their dreams come true. Thank you very much. To all of you distinguished participants in the 62nd IAC, on behalf of Lockheed Martin, and in particular Mr. Ray Johnson, who represents Lockheed Martin here, you are now all welcome to the welcome reception that is now to begin in the Lockheed Martin Exhibition Hall. So let us proceed to that place for the reception. Thank you very much.